Hey folks, good morning and welcome back to Kadena Campfire. We have another great session with us here today. Rather, the session's gonna be great, but we have a special guest with us here today. And that's something that we're starting to tweak and iterate on a little bit. When we throw these campfires, sometimes it'll just be members of the Kadena team and Kadena Eco. Other times when there are interesting announcements that have come out that week, we may bring on some guests. So we'll get to our surprise guest here in just a moment. But first, we're going to do a very brief update on what's been going on both the Kadena Eco and the Kadena side in the past 7 days. So Kadena Eco, I'll start first. My name is Tyler Benster. I'm the tech adoption lead here for Kadena Eco. And we have a very exciting announcement from Massive around NoPool that just launched in conjunction with Binance, or not Binance, with Bitmain and Kadena Mining Club. And so we're going to dive all into what that means, what NoPool is, what that means for mining, what that means for community. I think it's going to be a really, really exciting announcement to dive into more. And I'll pass it over to Doug here, Director of Engineering, to chat briefly about any updates on the Kadena side.
Thanks, Tyler. Big update from engineering since last week is that just this morning we released Pact 4.6. So go check that out. I'm not going to bore people with all the technicals, but there's a release notes and new constant innovation on the Pact front. So
awesome. And for those that have been attending this for a while, know we try to make them as interactive as possible. So whatever platform you may be on, YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, please feel free to post comments, and we'll try and get to as many folks as possible. But without further ado, I want to make sure that we bring up our special guest with us here today. Hello, Mark, who is with us today from Massive and the head of NoPool.
Hi, Kadena community. Nice to meet you all.
Mark, so great to have you here with us. Just to get everyone acquainted, would you mind telling us just briefly a little bit about your background and how you came to be at Massive?
Yeah, so I have a background in healthcare, and I found my way to the blockchain space through proof of work mining. So I started mining my own mining operation, and it was a special time. I learned about many different mining consensus algorithms, and I learned about Kadena and eventually found my way to Massive. And I also worked as business operations at Polygon. And so eventually I became head of NoPool at Massive.
Awesome. And for those that haven't seen the announcement yet, what is NoPool?
So NoPool is a decentralized pool on the Kadena ecosystem that aims to achieve increasing adoption of the blockchain through green mining. And what we do is provide fee-less pool service for miners that adopt clean energy resources.
Awesome. So as we all know, proof of work has been in the news quite a bit in terms of energy consumption and concerns around environmental friendliness. And I think that everyone here would agree that when we're talking about Bitcoin, these are some pretty serious concerns, and energy source is a big component of making proof of work green. I think at Kadena, there's sort of a two-pronged approach, right? There's a technical side of all the amazing work on Chainweb in terms of reducing energy consumption on a per transaction basis by increasing throughput dramatically. But nonetheless, the source of energy and mining decentralization are really key aspects. So it's super exciting to hear about NoPool. One question I have first is, how does NoPool generate profit if there's no pool fees?
A great question. Miners not on clean energy will pay competitive pool fees that are standard across the ecosystem. Mining operations that use at least 80% clean energy resources will receive the fee-less pool service at least 1 month per quarter to start with.
All right, awesome. Another question, how does NoPool increase distribution across network and undergo progressive decentralization?
So navigating progressive decentralization is not an easy task. However, we took inspiration from this article published by A16Z, approaching progressive decentralization in a step-by-step process. And in our phased approach, with our little twist. We have carbon neutrality, which we've been able to achieve at Massive, distribution, reducing our centralization, governance decentralization, and eventually complete decentralization.
Got it. And I see some community chats or community chat questions rolling through. Just to let everyone know a little bit about format here, we're going to start by asking some questions to Mark about NoPool, and then the rest of the AMA and the rest of the campfire today will be both any questions about Kadena or Kadena Eco, as well as questions to Mark about NoPool and Massive. So we're going to do a little bit of hybrid format. So I'll have a couple more questions sort of around NoPool, and then we'll switch more towards a community directed live stream here in just a few minutes. So wanted to ask a little bit about where NoPool is in terms of the launch. Is it just in beta testing phase, or when is the projected launch date?
So NoPool is currently in private beta. And what that means is that we're onboarding new miners, and we want to make sure that everything works. We want to optimize performance. And so over the next month, we'll be slowly onboarding miners so that we can accommodate their hash rates and as we scale up the infrastructure. And essentially, we will onboard over the next month, and we plan to publicly launch at the end of Q1.
Perfect. And could you go into a little more depth about the idea of this delegated decentralization, what that means and how NoPool achieves it?
Sure. Delegated decentralization is the idea that once we achieve delegated decentralization, which is a phase in our step-by-step process, that means that we've achieved sufficient decentralization to the point where we can have governance delegated to the miners within our network. And so the idea is that we delegate appropriate amount of voting power to the miners based on their share of NoPool.
Awesome. Okay. And then how does this counteract or provide some protection against 51% attacks?
By having delegated decentralization, it prevents any one party from controlling the entire direction of what the pool of the pool, and it prevents a 51% attack because it creates essentially what is a DAO, and no two parties. We'll have what's called a cap with the voting power. So no two parties can collude and take over the majority of the voting power within the pool. And that prevents the 51% attack. And I think it's important to note that this idea is not fully materialized. This is something new that we're researching, and we'll be publishing our thoughts on this, our research, and the steps that we're going to take to get there.
Awesome. Sounds super exciting, Mark, and thanks for being here and sharing more with us. I'm going to start switching to some more community questions here. So first from Ron the Wizard, why do you have a guest? Mainly because it's exciting news in the Kadena ecosystem. And I think that part of the campfire is to cover not just updates at Kadena and Kadena Eco, but also those in the community when possible. So it's just great timing that the NoPool announcement came out. So I wanted to have Mark up here given the opportunity. So we'll have kind of a rotating cast of characters, if you will, with each of these campfires. Then see another question from chat from Kagani Amadov around what is Kadena's marketing plan / strategy, and why are you not so active in compare to other good projects? Thanks for the question. I'm not a marketer myself. We do have some folks on the marketing team at Kadena Eco, and it's particularly advisors like Brooke. I think that we definitely value being active, and you'll see, I think, with these campfire calls, for example, that's one initiative to ensure that there's good, consistent communication with the community. And there's also, of course, lots going on with podcasts and other media. You've seen Francesco and other folks at Kadena and Kadena Eco talking to the press and making sure that the Kadena name is getting out there. And also welcome community initiatives. I think that one of the great things about Kadena is that community has done such an amazing job marketing the project and the ecosystem and the blockchain. But certainly welcome ideas and thoughts here it's a collaborative effort between Kadena Eco, and community. So we're all in this together, and definitely appreciate the question and any thoughts and ideas for how we can do better at marketing. And let's see here, just scrolling through the chat here. Doug, I see an invitation from Web3 to sell you his hoodie. I don't know if you have a response.
I was wondering if you were gonna do that question. 1,000 KDA.
There we go, Doug. You got to be careful, man. You might actually get some offers for that. Let's see here. Yep. Some appreciation, Doug. Again, lots of people are stoked to see you on the stream here. Let's see here. Oh, wow. Yeah. Just catching up on all the chats here. I see we have a very active conversation happening here.
Thanks, everyone. You should also make sure Tyler has a pink hoodie too. So you at least have double the market.
Let's see here. From Kadena Ecosystem, when are you getting Chris from Kadena Ecosystem or Kobe from Eucalyptus Labs on a fireside chat? Gosh, I hope that day is today. And if not today, I hope it's very, very soon. Would love to have Chris and Kobe up on a fireside or a campfire. That sounds awesome. All right, we have a question from Hashing Club. Why is Kadena so ignored in the market if they have the best tech and the best smart contract of the industry? I have some thoughts here, but Doug, I might pass it to you first, see if you want to take a stab at that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the million or 10 million or $1 billion question. I think that it's kind of it's a two-edged sword. Kadena's huge value prop is just technical excellence, and when you're really good in one area, guess what? It's kind of not super surprising if there's some other areas where you're not as good at. And one of our core theses here, and one of the things that drew me to Kadena in the first place, is that I think that in the blockchain world, tech and like the actual engineering, fundamentals, they really are going to have a lot more impact and be a lot more significant in the blockchain space than in a lot of other spaces. And so, people have pointed out, it's not sufficient just to have the best tech. You do have to have good marketing, and we understand that. And in fact, when I was interviewing, I asked Will, what is Kadena's biggest challenge? And with no hesitation, he said adoption. Getting adoption is by far the biggest hurdle. And it's a network effects game. It's a very complicated game. I really don't think there is any definitive answer. But good news is we have weathered the bear market very well, and we're growing and moving in the right direction on all fronts. And so, we're going to keep our engineering excellence, of course, and we're always working to ramp up on the marketing, PR, adoption front, because as you see, the co-founders both understand that this is absolutely essential, and they've understood it since I first joined the company. Can't hear you, Tyler.
Thank you. I spared you all from me slurping down my coffee. Also have some endorsements for getting Chris or Kobe live on Campfire. So that's good to see. That helps us prioritize things. Let's see here. We have another question about stable coins. When will we have stablecoin on Kadena like USDC, USDT? When will we also have wrapped Bitcoin, Ethereum? These are very high priorities at Kadena Eco. There's substantial biz dev effort and also effort with grantees to make this happen as soon as possible. And there is, a couple projects in the works, one of which that I think is fairly close to announcing in terms of making some pretty significant strides towards making some wrapped Ethereum assets or stable coins available on Kadena. So it's definitely something that we're all aware is a high priority. and something that's being actively worked on. Of course, the faster that everyone works and the more people that are working on it, the faster things get done. And so ultimately, Kadena is a decentralized ecosystem, decentralized economy. And so while there is, some ability on the platform side to try and facilitate some of these things, and we're working as hard as we can to make that happen, there's also great opportunity on the community side to make these happen. So if you're a developer and have Pack skills or have skills with Solidity and see this opportunity and want to work on it, we're very interested in supporting, because we think that a healthy ecosystem involves potentially multiple stable coins and multiple ways to wrap assets, and allowing the market to determine which solution is technically best.
Yeah, I'll throw in just an extra comment there. We've known since the very beginning that these kinds of DeFi foundations are absolutely essential. They're very high priorities for us. And this is one of the reasons that we originally focused on decentralized bridging. There's kind of two ways you can create a stable coin. You can either have a centralized version where you give me this coin and I give you back the wrapped coin, and then vice versa. Or you can have a decentralized approach. The decentralized approach is much more of a tech centric thing. And the centralized approach is much more of like a regulatory and compliance centered thing. And us being a pretty strong tech company, we fully through our efforts towards the decentralized approach and the tech approach. And then guess what? Like in the probably year and a half after we started working on that, we started seeing tons of high profile decentralized bridge hacks and attacks. And it really started to seem like decentralized bridges are at the very least much harder than kind of everyone originally thought, and potentially even really difficult, especially if you're looking for like an under collateralized decentralized bridge. We've seen notable challenges there. Over collateralized bridges, people point out that those have challenges. So it's not that we don't think this is important. I think the whole industry kind of got blindsided with a bunch of these kind of vulnerabilities on the engineering focused fronts, and then on the centralized fronts, that's kind of not our core competency. And so again, like Tyler said, this is an ecosystem. This is a community. Kadena can't build all the things. We're working on all fronts all the time, and but that's kind of like some backstory into kind of what our efforts were and why they haven't materialized.
Thank you, Doug. I'm going to throw this next question a bit towards Mark. So we question from TD McCarthy. Bitmain just sold a second batch of KA3s. What is Kadena doing to maintain decentralization and power? Why not create an incentive for people who own 10 miners or less? So Mark, curious as to what your thoughts are around sort of decentralization and mining.
I think it's a healthy thing that as the ecosystem grows and as we onboard more hash rate, new machines come out, it's important to be able to understand that, the difficulty, it will increase. And these new machines, eventually, they'll be onboarded onto every pool. And it's important to understand that, the more pools that we have, the more distributed the network hash rate will be, and the better that it is for the ecosystem overall. We want more pools. We want more people to be mining to various different pools, because we want to increase that diversity in order to prevent these sort of 51% attacks. So what we're doing here is accomplishing that.
Awesome.
I'll throw one other comment in. Right after and around the time the Bitmain KA3 came out, we did some engineering work to make it so that you can solo mine with the KA3. And you can do that. And we have a Chainweb mining client, kind of separate piece of software that lets you do that. From what I understand, it works, and it actually gets performance comparable to the major pools. So this also increases decentralization as well. If you can mine solo, then you're not throwing your hash power into a big bucket with a large pool, and we think that's really important. And the cool thing about Kadena is that It will be viable for solo mining far longer than a single chain blockchain like Bitcoin, Ethereum used to be, et cetera, because every 30 seconds, you have 20 opportunities to win a block reward, not just one. And so not only is it possible to mine solo, that is going to be viable for a much longer time with Kadena.
Awesome. Question from Fluxy. I want to build a tool where users can track wallets. Where can I get the Kadena team wallets? This is public info on other blockchains. So my understanding is that this is all still public on the Kadena blockchain. If you go back to Genesis coin contract, etc., you can see exactly where coins are unlocking to what wallets. But I think Doug might know more here.
Yeah, I mean, this is a proof of work decentralized blockchain, just like any other. All of the information is right there on chain. Just look into the system, the documentation, and the ways to interpret that information is available.
Yep, and I think I've seen community folks in the past that have done some analyses on like how coins flow from Genesis contract out to different things. And so, yeah, people have already done some of this analysis, and yeah, certainly welcome you to do it. Ultimately, it's a blockchain, and every transaction has some transparency around what's happening. And in most cases, Fluxy, I don't know what your wallet is, and nor would I, post it if I did, because I believe that people should be able to maintain some anonymity if they want to. But for platform tokens and coins, that's all very clearly delineated in the initial transactions. And so yeah, you can definitely follow that and design a tool if you'd like to. And the documentation is a great place to get started, as it's mostly skills around how do you access APIs and pull historic transactions. Let's see here. From Wealth Club, is this mining pool owned by Kadena team? How this works out with decentralization? So yeah, Mark, I guess I'll pass that one to you.
Yeah, so great question, Wealth Club. So NoPool is a product of Massive. Massive is the company that made NoPool. And what we're doing here is trying to create an autonomous, self-driven mining pool. And getting there is a step-by-step process. It hasn't been done yet, but we're working towards it. And we want to create something that's very useful and that's for the community. And that's how NoPool came to be. Yeah, that's it. That's that.
Awesome. Thank you. And another question from Cloud. Glad to see all the interest and enthusiasm about NoPool. How do you make sure the miners are actually using green energy when they use NoPool?
Great question. When researching this area, we looked into the different resources that there are for certification. And through our research, we found that there is no program that certifies green mining that we know of. So we attacked this problem by designing our own KYC procedures through a type form where we collect the information and we verify after you upload some sort of a proof that you are using green mining.
Makes sense. Doug, question for you from Web3. Skeptics of KDA's scalability. I guess I'll say Chainweb scalability, as of course, KDA is just one product on top of Chainweb. Wonder if changes in degree diameter / block size can map to a maximal bound confirmation time without increasing the probability of invalidation.
Yes. The thing that determines confirmation time as Chainweb expands, I've outlined this in some of my tweet storms where I talk about the structure of Chainweb and how it scales. It's really the diameter of the blockchain that determines like how many blocks it's going to take before the evidence of one block makes it into all of the other blocks. And if you go look at the graph theory research, we know how to construct degree diameter graphs that have hundreds of thousands of chains with a degree and diameter of less than like 6, 7, 8. I think 8 gets us into the hundreds of thousands. 7 gets us into like the tens of thousands. So absolutely, we do not anticipate ever needing a diameter of larger than 8. You're on mute again, Tyler.
All right. I see that I'm way behind on the questions. We've only made it to about the questions to 9:13. And of course, we're 12 minutes ahead of that now live. So I'm going to skim through a few, and apologies if I skip a great question. Just want to make sure we balance being live and reactive to asking the questions in the first order asked. We got another question from Web3, I think for Doug. Is QuickSign the feature formerly known as IntelliSend?
Great. I was hoping you'd put this one up. They're related. IntelliSend was a standalone DApp, proof of concept, and it was built on one of the early experimental versions of the QuickSign API. QuickSign is about making a standard so that wallets can sign multiple transactions in a single signing request. And IntelliSend and any other kind of sophisticated, smart transfer functionality that you might want to build on Kadena is going to rely directly on this ability to sign multiple transactions. If you have money on chains 5, 10, and 15, and chain 5 is congested, then a smart transfer tool can look at that and see there's a lot of transaction backlog in chain 5. The fees are higher, so I'm going to route my transactions on chains 10 and 15 instead. This is something that other blockchains can't even think about doing. All it is if you want to get your transaction in faster, you have to pay more. And Kadena, for the first time, makes it possible to imagine much more sophisticated approaches. And so IntelliSend was a teaser proof of concept. And now that we have released the official QuickSign API, we can kind of put more work into these kinds of separate tools, and they will leverage the QuickSign API, and they will allow you to have that functionality no matter what wallet you use. We don't have to have wallets implementing all of these more fancy features, because IntelliSend and any kind of this functionality can just be implemented as a dApp. And then the wallet implements the QuickSign and a UI for handling it. And then the two integrate very nicely.
Awesome. I have a question from Mark here. What is your opinion of Kadena mining right now? And would you see a potential collaboration with the NFT mining projects on Kadena? And they go on to specify examples of KMC, hashing, core, and so on.
Listen, I think that Kadena mining is a very special way to mine because of its ability to scale. It's been proven that you can mine Kadena, and the mining process and the transactions utilize less energy than other proof of work blockchains in existence. And I think that Kadena hit the nail on the head when it comes to the technology. We're all here because we believe in the technology and its ability to scale. And as a pool service, we want to create a product that's able to be leveraged by many different miners, whether you're enterprise grade mining or a home miner working out of your garage. So going on to your next question, which is onboarding different NFT projects, which I see some questions about that. I think that the more people come onto NoPool, the better balanced that the network hash rate will be. If you look at the network hash rates and pools across many different ecosystems, this is an existing problem where centralization of the hash rate centers around one pool. And in many cases, there are many pools that have more than 50% of the hash rate. And Kadena has done a great job in helping to diversify the available pools for users to select. And so we're creating something here that will hopefully drive adoption. And if that means onboarding NFT mining projects, we're very happy and excited to onboard anybody who wants to come on.
Yeah. So I think we're really privileged here in these campfire chats that we oftentimes have very influential members of the community, people that are running projects that are here with us on the live stream. What would be the best way for people, anyone that's running one of these mining projects, to get in touch with NoPool or get in touch with you, Mark?
We will outline how you can contact us. We also will be reaching out very shortly to various mining projects. So we are looking for you. And if you would like to get in touch with us, I would say the first step is to go on to NoPool. And I posted the link on Twitter. And you can see once you go on our website, you can sign up for our private beta testing. And we'll be in touch.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Mark. Let's see here. From Jared, why isn't Kadena on Coinbase when a ton of garbage coins are on Coinbase? I'm in New York and it makes it hard to obtain KDA aside from mining it. Jared, I totally feel your pain. Coinbase has long been something that's a priority for Kadena. Kadena was one of the first cryptocurrencies to implement Rosetta, Coinbase's standard. I mean, I guess all I'd say here is that everyone on the team is aware that Coinbase is an incredibly important gatekeeper to the crypto ecosystem. And, folks at Kadena and Kadena Eco are doing everything they can to facilitate that process as best we can. But ultimately, Kadena isn't another shitcoin that's some ERC20 token. And so it's a different lift compared to some of those garbage coins you may be referring to. Yeah, rest assured that we're definitely doing everything in our power to make that happen. Let's see here. We have a whole lot of questions here, trying to sort some out. One from KDB. Now that Kadena is trying to become the best, why haven't there been some sort of partnership / big companies invested in Kadena yet? What is the missing piece? So I guess I might pass this over to Doug here. Maybe if you want to provide any coloration or context on some of the big partnerships in early days and how that maybe has informed Kadena strategy today. Otherwise, I can take it more too.
It's a really interesting thing. There's I feel like big corporations just move more slowly. I think this is like a universal law of the universe, that large things, like once you get them going in a direction, it takes more energy for them to change direction. And so I honestly think that is one of the big factors here. A lot of big, our co-founders used to be at large companies, and they ended up forming Kadena because they felt like they would be able to do their ideas justice more effectively in a separate company where they weren't constrained by the large corporate things. And then the other factor is that Kadena was originally all about enterprise blockchain. And, we spent a lot of effort. So it's definitely not that we haven't tried and we haven't looked in these spaces. But see, back to my previous comment, I honestly don't think the really large companies are quite ready for it yet, with some notable exceptions. You see some companies like, some chat companies trying to integrate, et cetera. But, Facebook's effort fell flat on its face. You just haven't seen a lot of these large corporations. So I think it's really a matter of time.
Awesome.
And we haven't abandoned it. We kind of pivoted and did a public blockchain proof of work thing. That is what the company's mostly focused on now. But we haven't abandoned it, and we still would love to get these kinds of partnerships. And that's what Tyler and the Kadena Eco folks are focusing on. They're focusing on bringing new companies in and talking to any existing companies that are interested.
Yeah, thanks so much for that context and coloration, Doug. I guess from my perspective, when first encountered Kadena, back in early 2017, the whole business model was like white label private blockchain for Fortune 500, Fortune 100. And there were a number of pilots going with Fortune 100. But ultimately, the public side, the public blockchain, the public ledger is what got adoption early on. And so I think it was very clear from the market that despite having landed some of the really big names in terms of companies, like companies were willing to do pilots and sort of dip their toes in the water, but there wasn't the same kind of urgency and demand as retail and of the decentralized crypto maxis. And so I think it was just almost a market-driven decision in some ways too. I have a question from O. Rost. Speaking of eco, what's the average amount an individual grant has been for? So grants have ranged in size from about 5K to about 250K. And I'd say a typical grant would be somewhere around 50K. But it really varies case by case on the grant project itself. Sometimes projects come in with a really, really big ask and they're very early. And that's sometimes disappointing because you say, wow, if you'd asked for something a little bit smaller, given the risk profile of the project, that would be a clearer case. Other times we see projects that are asking, maybe even too conservatively, and we've bumped up grant amounts. So I think it's a balance and something that we're trying to make sure that with each cohort and with each grant, we're getting better and more calibrated. So I think this next cohort of companies, and there's going to be some announcements that are trickling out here, is going to be really fantastic. And we've talked a little bit about what some of those categories are in a past campfire, including things like Oracle or Bridge or some core infrastructure, as well as some blue sky stuff. So yeah, I think it should be really exciting to chat more about that in the future. I'm going to try and scroll down a little bit and catch back up to semi-real time. Let's see here. Okay, question from Turget Odabasi. Would Kadena support wallets like MetaMask and Trust Wallet in the near future? Doug, any thoughts here?
Yeah. Again, it's kind of like the Coinbase question, right? Fundamentally, it's out of our control. We don't have control over MetaMask and the people and the coins that are supported there. And so, we generally tend to focus our efforts on the things that we can control more. In particular, with MetaMask, I'm a little bit skeptical. I think that they're pretty all in on Ethereum and the Ethereum ecosystem, and so it's probably going to be pretty hard to convince them. I don't know that it's impossible. If the kind of momentum shifts enough, maybe they would be willing to put in the work to support Kadena. But that would be a significant engineering effort because Kadena uses a variety of different things than they're used to with their ERC20 tokens, and that's really kind of the common theme here. We are not just another ERC20. We have innovated in too many ways, and there's just no possible way you could have. I mean, you could do a wrapped asset of KDA as an ERC20, but it wouldn't be trading on the Kadena blockchain. So you lose tons of the benefit of Kadena. You lose the things I mentioned earlier about having a smart transfer routing kind of IntelliSense type thing. If you are trading wrapped KDA on the Ethereum blockchain, you can't have that. You're stuck with the single blockchain, just like everything else. So in terms of MetaMask actually supporting Kadena blockchain like wallet accounts, I think that's going to be a big ask. But it is possible that they could do wrapped assets, and that kind of falls under the bridge efforts that we talked about earlier.
Perfect. Thank you, Doug. Question from Miners of Kadena. Will there be an effort to make the operations Kadena Eco more transparent? Average grants given and such, for example? I think it's a great question. And I think it's one where we've taken the conservative route so far, which is to announce the grantees, and that's about it. And I think that one could very rationally decide to go on a more fully transparent route, the day something's signed, to announce it or to announce the dollar amount, and there's a boundary around, certain private information or whatever. I don't know that I have a great answer for this, other than to say that I think it's a reasonable question and a reasonable ask. I will say that from the venture capital side, historically, it's been a decision of each company that's invested in, case by case, to decide whether they want to determine, they want to announce that they raised X amount of dollars and when they announced that they raised X amount of dollars. And you have a hybrid model where companies that are earlier on oftentimes choose to keep funding round sizes private. And then later on, they choose to make them public because there's some signaling factor when the grant monies or the raised capital is very, very large. So I think our current approach is basically say that it's case by case. And I know that some projects have privately or semi-privately shared their grant funding amounts and dates and process information and some of the different Telegram channels, and absolutely support that. So I'd say that the current stance would be that any project that wants to discuss, what size grant they got and details about that grant, absolutely fully support that. And right now it's sort of a case by case where we're allowing projects to decide when and how much to disclose about grants and grant sizes, etc. But yeah, I definitely support any project sharing information that they want to about that financing and funding. But yeah, happy to continue this discussion and conversation, as I think it's an important one. I think transparency is important. And so thank you very much for the question. Let's see here. Scrolling back here. Oh, this is kind of interesting. I think we had a couple of questions about regulation earlier that I had passed over. But curious maybe to Mark, if you have any thoughts as to how, NoPool and might relate to crypto regulations. And I can also add some thoughts here.
Yes. So another good question. Navigating the current political climate with regards to crypto is very sensitive. And as a US-based company, Massive aims to be fully compliant with all regulations. And so navigating being a pool requires us to be able to be compliant with OFAC regulations here in the United States. And so it's important for us to be able to do this through our KYC methods. And so this is how we address that. As we move forward, we will look to continue our compliance. But another thing is we want to relay is that we're a trustworthy pool. We're a globally distributed team based here in the United States. And we want to create something that will allow users to feel safe using.
Perfect. Related question from Crypto Fries. Where does Kadena stand in regards to future regulations and I guess slightly expanded future crypto regulations and stablecoins? So just briefly, as we touched on last week with the Kraken crackdown, when we've seen in proof of stake and particularly centralized providers of proof of stake services, is that the SEC appears to be considering these types of services as securities. And thereby subject to additional and more stringent and more invasive regulation. Proof of work, and as Bitcoin has shown for the past decade plus, has been one of the only truly decentralized and non-security way to offer yield in crypto. And so I think in that regard, proof of work is relatively safe from regulation, at least compared to some of these other proof of stake areas that are a bit more centralized. But I think it's an interesting question. As many know, Will Martino was formerly at the SEC's working group for crypto, helped start that group. And so I think Kadena for a long time has been a leader in the industry around regulatory compliance and being conservative. Yeah, I guess my personal belief is that proof of work is going to have some regulatory advantages over proof of stake. However, that said, there's obviously a huge amount here that's in the hand of regulators and not in any of our hands. So, can't promise anything, and can't foresee the future, and can't foresee how the courts will, decide different cases and how that will then dictate future enforcement. But my guess is that if you're a miner, there's going to be less dealing with the SEC than if you are staking. That's my personal take, not legal advice.
Yeah, completely agree. I think all the recent things going on point to proof of stake being a bit more at risk from regulatory incursions. And I read from the Chainweb white paper last time. I won't do it again this time. Go read it. This was predicted in the Chainweb white paper years ago. we specifically called this out. So.
We're getting towards the end of our timer, so we'll just take a couple more questions. Got a question for Doug. What utilization percentage do you believe Kadena would have to expand to more chains?
Great question. And as usual, I'm just going to tell you I can't possibly answer. It really depends on many factors. If it depends on like how much of the community is kind of like centered on a smaller number of chains, or is the community adequately putting applications on different chains? That obviously has a huge impact. If everyone just piles on chain 0 and is lazy, and then we're going to have congestion much faster than we would if they spread evenly across. And there's always going to be limiting factors there. So I think it's just impossible to say. But we, rest assured, will be paying attention to this and trying to come up with the right trade-off of a bunch of different factors of when we pull the trigger and add more chains.
Awesome. Yeah. And I also would just be curious, is average utilization even the right metric? So for example, one could also imagine that, look, average utilization isn't that high, but there's peak utilization that could be quite high. And on some level, nobody complains on a Wednesday at 9:47 a.m. about congestion, but maybe people complain when an NFT drop happens about congestion. So there's this other question I think about, even what are the right metrics for this, as I think there's different ways of viewing when it would be advantageous to expand the number of chains.
Yep.
All right. I think we will take maybe one last question. Let's see here. Trying to find a good one to end on. Otherwise, I might take executive privilege. I know there's some great questions in here that I've totally missed over in the super active chat. So really exciting to see community interacting so much. But I guess I'll just ask maybe for Mark, since we're so lucky to have you here. What are you most excited about in the next 6 to 12 months?
What I'm excited about is, personally for Massive, is finding use cases and for NoPool to continue our process of progressive decentralization. I'm also excited for the Kadena ecosystem. I'm excited as we gain more adoption, as more people start building applications. It's going to be very interesting to see some of the new products that will come out in the near future.
Awesome. And I'm a sucker for someone bumping a question at the end here, because it makes it easy for me to attend to something. So maybe I'll pass this one to Doug if you feel capable. Hey guys, how ZK will translate to the common user interaction with Kadena blockchain?
Thanks, guys. I was actually just DMing Tyler to tell him to put a ZK question up. And also that I see there was another project asking like, is there ZK in Pact now? And I dropped the link in the chat to the Pact 4.6 release, which was dropped this morning. And you can see the second bullet point, add zero-knowledge native operations. So the answer is yes. This release of Pact that came out today adds primitive operations for zero-knowledge stuff. And yeah, we're giving it to you. And again, as I say over and over, we can't build everything. We will try to help the community along and provide information. But yeah, we're super excited to see what people do with these new zero-knowledge operations.
Awesome. Well, thanks, folks. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Thank you so much to the Kadenians and everyone in community that was here today. Awesome questions, super thoughtful chats going on, very respectful discourse. Definitely come on Discord if you're not there already to continue the conversation. It's been a delight to chat with you all today. Mark, thank you so much for joining us, and congrats on the NoPool announcement. Doug, always great to have you here. And Kadenians, keep it up. We're all here today because of your enthusiasm, energy, and support of the builders and support of the ecosystem. So until next time, great chatting, and have a great week, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Pleasure as always.
Thank you, everybody.